Hey everyone, I feel like I haven't quite figured out the YouTube thumbnail game yet, but I'm sure I'm getting there, slowly. But anyways, this week was pretty crazy, so let's not talk too long and start right into the video. Some people seem not to like peace, and by some I mean more than I'd like to have talked about on this channel. But as some wise man, CJ from GTA San Andreas once said,
"Oh shit, here we go again."
They just can't help it. Once someone has many missiles, they need to present them in a way so everybody can see them. And how else would you do that than by having them fly over another country so their government has to warn its citizens about possible nuclear warheads coming their way? Well, let's ask the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, who just did that a few days ago. I mean, we have to differentiate here. This rocket didn't have any warheads aboard, and if it did, this would have been a much bigger deal and we'd probably have much more going on right now. Apart from that, the missile didn't hit Japan. After traveling around 4,500 kilometers or 2,800 miles, it safely fell into the Pacific Ocean. But I also really don't want to underplay this. There's a reason why nobody else does this, and it's pretty obvious. Flying a rocket over another country is very likely to seem like an attack. On top of that, doing so without any warning or consultation also contravenes international norms, which is not all that surprising. So why did Kim Jong-un order this launch? North Korea is a bit of a problem child. It mostly does what it wants, and if it doesn't get its way, it threatens others and is hard to handle. And while this behavior isn't great but at least acceptable when it comes to children, it's not okay with the nuclear force. I mean, there's a reason why Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin get along so well. BBC portrays this launch as a huge cry for attention, or specifically, the attention of Tokyo and Washington. Kim Jong-un likely tries to establish his country as a respected military force that shouldn't be messed with. Even though the US and Japan both stated that they don't want to interfere in North Korean affairs, Mr. Un seems to doubt that. So he continues to spend a fifth to a quarter of North Korea's GDP on its military. They are currently set to develop and test a hypersonic light vehicle or HGV and a maneuverable re-entry vehicle or MARV. These systems could defeat costly and complex missile defense systems that Japan and America would use to defend themselves in case of a war against North Korea. With that being said, all in all, Kim Jong-un basically wants to gain military leverage to make other countries think twice before they attack him. And he is now testing the real world potential of his new toys by practicing in real use conditions like flying over Japan, for example. So there is still hope that we won't have another conflict. And thinking about it, there isn't much the US or Japan could do about that, but one thing they did do were joint military exercises with South Korea to show their northern neighbor that they indeed have weapons too and that they can use them as well. But what more should we do? North Korea could go back to live in complete isolation again, so sanctions wouldn't do that much damage. And invading them obviously is no option either. Yeah, to get back to the problem child analogy, all that's left seems to be looking how it'll turn out in the end. Now to something completely different. And with this thing, we can't wait to see how it turns out. We have to act now, many lives depend on it. Now you might be wondering, what else? Don't we already have enough shit going on in this world? To which I agree. But we can close our eyes before problems like these, especially if the pointless burning of gas is linked to more and more cases of cancer. On the outskirts of Basra in the southeast of Iraq lie some of the country's biggest oil exploration areas. And a BBC News Arabic investigation now found that communities living close to fields where gas is openly burned are at elevated risk of leukemia or simplified cancer. According to a leaked Iraq Health Ministry report, air pollution is accountable for a 20% rise of cancer cases in Basra between 2015 and 2018. That is because the open burning of gas releases multiple cancer-causing chemicals into the air. This goes up to a point where Professor Shukri Al-Hassan, a local environmental scientist, said that cancer would be as rife as the flu. And the crazy thing is that the government of Iraq is aware of the pain and suffering this burning causes. So why don't they change something about it? This open burning of gas is called gas flaring, but that would be very stupid if it didn't serve a purpose, wouldn't it? And yes, that is absolutely right, but why is gas flared? Well, when extracting oil from the ground, there's always a particular amount of gas, since our planet stores oil in big bubbles at the top of which there's always gas, sometimes more, sometimes less. But this gas obviously can't just be stored and used alongside the oil, so the oil companies would have to separate them, which they do, but instead of using this gas in a productive and more sustainable way, they just burn it. And they do that because using it, which would mean capturing the gas, putting more effort into adapting the right pressure, transporting, processing and selling the gas, is just too expensive. Well, it wouldn't be for the oil companies, but it would likely reduce profits. Not that this reduction would hurt the people benefiting from this, but well, they don't have to live with this cancer, so why should they care? Yeah, it's a messed up world we're living in, but the Global Gas Flaring Reduction Partnership, or GGFR, is trying to make it slightly better. Now, the bad news is that we can't do much to help them apart from donating bone marrow to fight the cancer and bringing this problem to public attention. But especially now with the Russo-Ukrainian war, which has many countries reorientating when it comes to the use of gas and oil, I think, or more hope, that our oil usage will drastically shrink within the coming decades for our whole planet's sake. Now, before we end the video, I quickly wanted to tell you about a little message by the United Nations concerning news and information in general. There is so much misinformation out there. Too many people present hearsay as facts when in reality that's straight up bullcrap. So before you share information or believe them, think about who made it, what the source is, where it came from, why you are sharing or accepting this information as the truth, and when it was published. That isn't to offend you in any way, but please stay safe out there. I know how misleading the internet can be, because I have also taken things for fact when I had only read one article on this topic on some weird website. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. But now let's move on to this week's bonus fact. In a world where everything could be cake, nothing seems to be right or real anymore. And fruits or veggies are no different. Strawberries are classified as a sort of nut, while peanuts aren't actually nuts but legumes. And there's another thing which I hadn't heard about until recently. Bananas don't grow on trees. That's right, the tree you see here, well, guess what? That's not even a tree. Bananas grow from a root structure that produces an above the ground stem. The plant is specifically classified as an arborescent or tree-like perennial herb. In fact, the banana plant is the largest herbaceous flowering plant, and with the banana plant being a herb, the banana itself is a berry. Oh, and in case you were wondering, the banana isn't the biggest berry in the world, that's the watermelon. Don't ask me why.